Hi, I'm Jane, and I am a 5th grader at Joplin Elementary. You are listening to the West Ada Podcast.
Well, and the statistics around education and homelessness are kind of scary. So students experiencing homelessness are 87% more likely to drop out of school. And an adult who does not have a high school diploma or a GED is 346% more likely to experience homelessness in adulthood. Wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of the West Ada Podcast. I love it's December. It's holiday time.
Yeah, it is.
And we've got a couple of amazing guests.
We do. You know, we say it all the time, but maybe it's just because we always pick our best colleagues. Maybe we should have some people. But we have two phenomenal colleagues today.
Yeah.
They're social workers in our district, Shannon Shayne and Annie Edwards. And they just really, they're so kind and gracious and empathetic, and just hearing the work that goes on in our district and how we're supporting students and families, it's a great conversation.
Well, and one of the things I like about Annie and Shannon too is they're literally West Ada kids. I mean, literally from elementary through middle school through high school, as you'll hear on the podcast. Yep. They are part of this community. They've been part of this community. And so when they say that they love the kids in West Ada, I'm like, oh, that's legit. I mean, it shows what they do. Well, yeah.
They're West Ada ready.
Well, we are excited that you are here for this conversation. I hope you're going to see the need that we have and learn a few things today. Here it goes. Here's the conversation.
Well, we are getting to have such a fantastic conversation with two of our wonderful colleagues today. We have Annie Edwards and Shannon Shayne. They're two just outstanding school social workers and really provide a lot of service to our community. So thank you for being here, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so great to have you both here. And one of the cool things that kind of excites me that we talked about even before we started recording, you're both West Ada kids. Can you talk about, Annie, do you want to start? You went to Mary
I went to Mary McPherson Elementary, Meridian Middle School, and then I was a graduate of Meridian High School.
Not your first day in West Ada?
No, not my first day.
Oh, that's
So you loved it so much, you just had to continue on. That's right. And
well, Shannon, Shannon, same thing.
Yeah, same thing. I went to Lake Hazel Elementary and a little stint at Meridian Middle before Lake Hazel Junior High, now middle school, was built, and graduated from Meridian High as well.
Look at these two warriors we have here.
Love it.
That's right.
I know we talk a lot about being West Ada ready.
Right.
And it's just so cool when somebody comes up through our education system and then wants to come back and serve.
Well, and I'm not going to say anything mean, but my kids both went to Mountain View, or my daughter's still going to Mountain View. So the stinky sneaker thing between Mountain View and Meridian, it's kind of a thing. I'll try to be nice to you guys for the next hour or so, but it's kind of a thing.
Yeah, it is kind of a thing.
Well, Mountain View is one of my schools that I go to now, so I have a lot of Mountain View gear now.
Yep. Well, so you can annoy my daughter. That would be so wonderful. I would love that to be.
You can expand your allegiances, right?
That's right.
And so just kind of talking about that, you both kind of serve across the district, right? Like, Annie, what schools are you at?
So I have 9 schools assigned to me. So I have 6 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 2 high schools.
Wow. And you attend all of those schools in 1 week?
I do office hours at 3 of those schools, and then I'm sort of as needed at my other 6 schools.
Wow. Yeah. And Shannon, in addition to serving at schools, you also oversee our community school program, correct?
Yes.
Correct. And then what schools are you at?
So I have 7 elementary schools under my belt, and then serve the community schools, and there are 5 of those.
Well, what's that like? It's so easy to say. I think Annie, you and I were talking a few days ago. You're just a small but mighty, social working crew. What's that like when you got multiple schools? I would think, man, there's so many balls in the air. Annie, what's that like for you to try and juggle so many balls in the air?
Yeah, it's a lot. When I first started in the 2015-16 school year, it was actually just one social worker in the district, and her and I job shared. So we had all 58 schools.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I think there was 56 at that time, but yeah, it was. So 9 feels a lot more manageable, but it is a lot. It's a lot to juggle, and we're kind of an ER. I guess I would say we're just triaging. We're triaging needs all day long, but it's good. It's never dull.
Yeah. Well, and it seems that's kind of something inherent in the social work profession, right? Like caseloads are they seem astronomical, but I think folks who go into social work are just so giving and kind and willing to just kind of take on so much.
Yeah. What's it like for you, Shannon? I assume that, I mean, it's cliched, but I assume that no 2 days are the same. Is there a typical day? What are your days like?
Well, the
As she
typical
laughs
day,
at me.
it's always unpredictable. And the more scheduled things that are on the calendar as far as meetings and those type of things, the more chaos will instill, it seems. It's like the more full the calendar is, the fuller it gets.
It's just more opportunity
sure.
for things to arise, right?
Yeah. And so
Sure.
it is triaging.
And now how are like students and families identified? Because you're at all these different schools. And so in my mind, I'm like calling them cases, if you will. Is it school principals, teachers, school counselors, things like that are like, hey, I think you need to come in and meet with this student and family? Or what does that kind of identification process look like?
Yes, it's all of the above. So one thing I was excited about coming on the podcast for was to bring some awareness that our group exists. So I should say we have 7 social workers, 6 FTE. So 2 of us are part-time. But in that, I think we're just trying to spread awareness to who we are and what we do so we can get more people referring to us. But our primary referral sources are definitely school counselors, admin. And then as more people get to know us and what we can do, then teachers start emailing and, a special ed case manager might email and it just
Nurses.
kind of expands. Nurses, yeah, school
Our
nurses.
ML department.
Our SROs, so it's just kind of the more
So
people who know
whoever
about us.
kind of sees a need kind of says, hey, Annie, by the way. I mean, is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I say all the time I get to work with Shannon in our community schools, and we really live in a resource-rich valley. We have so many kind, giving individuals that want to help, and stuff does flow into the district, resources that you're able to help students with or programs. But you're right, the awareness so that people know to take advantage of those opportunities.
Absolutely. All the time when I'm talking to a parent, I had no idea this existed. Or a community partner, I had no idea that this was a need in your district. We'd love to help. So the more people that know, the more we can connect those students and families to our community partners and resources we have available.
Yeah, and I'll put a link in the show notes today to your counseling page, your social work page. There's a lot of resources there. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to really do this podcast this time of year is there's so much need, and people are, we're around the holidays. There's a lot going on. What are the needs that maybe are kind of under the radar that you all see? Are some of those things out there that, like, holy cow, people don't even know that caps and gowns are a thing? Or Shannon, what are some of the needs that are out there maybe that we as a community might not be aware of?
I think making things affordable, just, affordable housing, affordable healthcare, affordable clothing and food. There's such a need for our families of just basic needs that need to be filled so that students can come to school and learn. Yeah. And, simple things like socks, simple things like a coat, that, we have partners that help us be able to provide these things for our kids.
Well, this is going to sound kind of dumb, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've never struggled with needing a pair of socks or shoes. I'm blessed beyond anything I deserve. But there are people. I think sometimes we're a very affluent community, right? But there are people in need. What does that look like? And how do we get that information out to people? I mean, Annie, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so I've always said that homelessness and poverty in our area is kind of an invisible problem. We don't have a homeless shelter within our school district boundaries. In our 382 square miles, there's not one homeless shelter available to students and families.
382 square miles. I mean, when you say that, it's like, holy cow, and there's not one single shelter.
So it's just it's an invisible problem. We don't see that need very well. Just day to day walking through the community, you don't see it, but it's very much there. So I think the more people know that there is need and that if you're in need, we can help. Right. The better we can do.
Yeah.
Well, and if I could piggyback on what Shannon was saying about the affordability of living in the Valley today, a statistic that just sticks in my mind is 47% of Idahoans fall within an ALICE category. And that's a category I think that everyday people don't know about. And ALICE is a asset limited income constrained employed.
You're teaching me. I didn't realize that.
And so
No, I didn't know
47%
that.
of Idahoans fall into that category. And that certainly you're not seeing, right? It's just struggling to make ends meet and afford a place to live. And you never know, when the next thing's going to happen that you're out of somewhere to live, or you can't afford groceries or pay your power bill and that kind of thing.
Right. It's called working poverty.
Yes.
It's like families are working, but they're still struggling.
There's kind of a misconception, I would say, about what resources people actually have access to. And most of those families can't access a lot of the resources that people think they can.
Yeah, because they're just above the poverty line.
That poverty threshold. And so those people...
So it's like there's a struggle all the time kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they're just trying to make it work every single day.
well, and I think, okay, so people have physical needs, whether it's socks or whatever. How do you differentiate between we've got to help people with physical needs, but there's also social, emotional needs that are part of the equation as well. How do you train for that? How do you differentiate those things? What does that look like, Shannon? And from your perspective, when you're trying to figure out, hey, maybe there's some social, emotional, or mental stuff happening before we can help the physical. What does that look like in your world?
That's a great point, because a lot of times social emotional behavior and different triggers in like a classroom, it's important for us to be trauma informed and make sure that we understand the family system and what's going on for a child and what's going on at home, and really being able to dive in and support our students and the families to meet their needs, whether it's, outside counseling resources or helping them with finding a place to lay their head the next night.
And, I kind of want to just point out, and this is something that's probably not fun to talk about, but I live in a really super conservative community. And I think some folks have a negative view of social work, right? Like maybe you're going to take my kids away from me, or you're not going to do what's best for the kids. And working for the district and getting to partner with all of you, it's so heartwarming to see the care and the love and the gentleness that goes into taking care of our students and families. And there's no attitude of trying to usurp parents' responsibilities, but it's really a collective helping. And I don't know that I really have a question for you to answer, but more to applaud you and your team on how you serve people so well. And just maybe parents, guardians, people listening, don't be afraid to ask for help, because the resources are there and you know how to help them access them.
Our team takes pride in being non-judgmental and compassionate. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story.
We've all got our stuff, right?
Right.
Part of being
We do.
human. Yeah. Well, can you piggyback on that, Annie? I mean, the social emotional needs versus physical needs. I mean, obviously Shannon gave us a great answer, but what does that look like in your world?
Well, and they're interconnected, right? So it's hard too, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Where it's like your basic needs have to be met to be able to start working on those higher level needs, like a mental health concern or things like that. And they're all interconnected. So a behavioral problem, it might look like a behavioral problem, but really it's I'm a hungry problem.
Yeah.
Or, I didn't turn in my homework might be interpreted as laziness or,
Defiance
not trying,
or something.
defiance, attitude, whatever. But maybe it's I live in a car and I don't have a place to do my homework, or I don't have internet or it's it can just be, it's just also intertwined. So I think what our group really tries to do is just get to the bottom of what are those needs? What are the basic needs that need to be met?
Right.
What are the social emotional needs that need to be met? How are those connected? And then how can we kind of bring it all together and then bring the school team together around the family to just support them? So when, you guys said no, we're not taking kids. We're not, that's not, social workers do sometimes have a little bit of a negative connotation. But really, when we're talking to family, it's like, hey, our job is to just support you and your kid and your family and help you all, the whole family system thrive. Because we know when parents are thriving and the family's thriving, it trickles down to the kid, right? We've all heard the airplane mentality, you put your air mask on first. I know when I'm struggling or having a not, maybe not my best day, do I show up as my best self as a parent? Probably not, and I
might have had one or two of those days. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so we are really looking at that whole family system. We're looking at the student, but we're also looking at the parent and, just bigger community systems.
And how do you, what is the order of operation? So, maybe someone says, it seems like Ken's struggling. Do you do you meet with the student first? Do you call in the parents? What is the kind of the order of operations for all of that?
I would say our first point of contact is when a family enrolls. That's our very initial step. We have a nighttime residency question that is a part of our enrollment.
Sure.
This
All
is
enrollment, right? Like Power School forms that you fill out every year.
in every district. You'll see this. This is a mandated question by the federal government of clarifying what your nighttime residency is. It seems like an invasive question, but it's really not. It's just to be able to make sure that students are getting served in the way that they should. We take pride in school of origin. We want to keep our kids enrolled in our schools and continue to progress because, just like Annie and I were able to continue our progress through West Ada School District, we want to keep kids stable as much as possible. And we know that there are family dynamics and different things going on at home that can be. Many of our families are doubled up living with other families out of financial need, out of maybe domestic violence situation, things that really aren't a child's fault. And we just need to
100%,
remove the barriers.
It has nothing to do with,
So that's kind of our first point of contact is if a family doesn't rent or own their own home, but they live in a unique living situation. They may say that they're living in an RV, or they may say they're doubled up, or that they're living in a shelter. That is kind of the first point of contact. And then we also get referred, throughout the school year if a housing situation has changed. This time of year is really busy for us. A lot of families.
I can't imagine. Spending
time together. There's arguments and people get kicked out. Bills are high. Rent doesn't get paid. There's a higher eviction rate in the winter. So there's just, different situations that staff finds out about, and then they refer them to the counselor and to us.
Well, and I realize this is a very open-ended question, but you're talking about all these hard things. Annie, how do you build trust? I mean, you're dealing with people who are dealing with hard stuff. Building trust is huge in any relationship. How do you even begin to go about that? What's that look like?
Yeah, it can be challenging because we ask a lot of hard questions. We ask a lot of personal questions when we're talking to parents. It's specifically talking to parent, looking at what's your situation and what are your needs. Excuse me, when somebody's talking about, hey, our power is going to get shut off, that's kind of a hard conversation, right? 100%. And so we're asking a lot of hard questions. And so I think initially it's just being a really good listener. It's being compassionate and empathetic, validating the experience. I mean, most people just want to be heard, let them tell their story. Social work, one of the main components of social work is self-determination. So we allow families to make the best choice for themselves, right? We're not trying to change their minds on what they should be doing or, things like that. We're just
You're not there to tell them what to do.
We're not telling them what to do. Yeah. We're just supporting them in their current situation. And so, and it can take multiple conversations to build up that trust. People aren't necessarily just, diving deep with us on a cold call home, right? Things like that. It can take time to build those relationships. But I think just giving it that time and then just reminding people that our goal, again, is just to help families and students be successful at home, in the community, and at school.
Yeah.
Well, and I love how you always are trying to, and I apologize if these aren't like the PC terms, but it doesn't ever feel like
correct me, because I will say I promise you I will say dumb things, so feel free to correct me.
In my observation, it doesn't seem like it's just a handout. I've seen you all working with families, encouraging them to build the skills they need to learn about their resources, to be self-sufficient, and that makes me feel good. That feels like the right model in my non-educated brain of your world.
We definitely want families to be sustainable, right? That's the word that we're looking for, sustainable. But families don't always come to us in a sustainable situation. And so helping them build those resources, build those community supports, get connected to the people who can help them become sustainable. And that doesn't happen overnight, right? So it takes time. And just staying alongside of families as they're working through that is really important.
What strategies do you employ, Shannon? I mean, I'm sure there's no cookie cutter answer like, here's the strategy we use. But are there specific strategies that you use to try and help families get from point A to point B? What's that look like?
It just depends on the needs, really. I mean, we use findhelpidaho.com.org, I guess, for like some like basic things. We have like you said, we live in such a community resource rich
which is cool
area, and it's just knowing who to connect where. Right. And then letting families know that once they do get on their feet, if they are wanting to help give back, this is how they can give back. And they enjoy being able to give back once they get on their feet.
Imagine doubling your impact on Idaho's housing crisis with just one donation. Now you can with Avenues for Hope. From December 9th through the 31st, your generosity goes twice as far. Every donation dollar is matched, providing crucial support for safe, affordable housing across Idaho. Join the West Ada Education Foundation in this vital campaign. Together, we can create stable homes for our students in need. Don't wait. Visit the Avenues for Hope link in today's show notes to donate today. Remember, December 9th through the 31st, where your kindness builds hope and your donation doubles its impact.
Now, there's something that always kind of strikes me, kind of hurts my heart to see. We were talking about identifying students and families in need, and there's something called McKinney-Vento, and I'll let you explain what that program is. But those numbers, start out relatively small in the beginning of the school year, and then as students and families are identified more, we were talking about just before the Thanksgiving break, how you're identifying more families. Will you share with us about McKinney-Vento and what that program is?
Yeah, so McKinney-Vento is a federal law that schools have to abide by. It is the federal law regarding housing instability for families. And so there's kind of a designation that I think is important to understand. So there's the HUD definition of homelessness, and then there's the McKinney-Vento definition of homelessness, and those are different. And so the HUD definition of homelessness is literal homelessness is the word that they use. Okay. And so like living in a shelter, living in a car, unsheltered, living in a park, a campground, things like that. McKinney-Vento is a more expansive definition of homelessness, and it includes that doubled up category that Shannon talked about. So living with friends or family due to economic hardship, loss of housing, things like that. Mm-hmm. And under McKinney-Vento, families have rights under McKinney-Vento. And one of that's the right to stay at their school of origin, which is the school that the student was attending at the start of that homeless episode. So so even if you move outside of that boundary of that school, your student still has the right to stay there. And we have to help provide transportation to that school of origin for students. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of what Shannon and I do, is helping families make sure their kids are getting to school.
Just navigate the logistics of what's going on.
The logistics of it,
sure.
yeah. So we help with, we bus students all around the district outside of those bus zones. And we provide gas gift cards to families as well to reimburse them for gas to taking their kids to and from school. Mm-hmm. And then their students have the right to fully participate in school like any other student. Right. And we help them get access to that participation. So that might be, a pay-to-play fee, helping get access to equipment, things like that. So we want them to be fully engaged in school and not have that homeless episode impact them. I mean, it's going to impact them negatively, but try to minimize that impact as much as we can and provide as much stability as we can in an unstable time.
And so part of that process starts with what Shannon was mentioning of your enrollment forms, right? Where do your evening, what did you call it? Evening housing? Nighttime residency. But then from there, it kind of goes out. You were sharing with me when we were not yet recording the podcast about identifying students. What did you say? Like right before Thanksgiving break, you had a bunch of families, or
we did. It's all year long.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cyclical for us. So at the beginning of the year, we contact every family that we were working with the previous school year and see what their current situation is, because that McKinney-Vento designation is for the entire school year. So even if a student or family finds permanent housing during the school year, they still have the same rights under McKinney-Vento. Mm-hmm. And the other right I didn't mention was they get free breakfast and lunch as well under that, which is so beneficial for families. So we are re-identifying at the beginning of the school year, and then we're calling all those nighttime residency surveys if people are marking that they're living in an alternate situation. And then we're just getting referrals throughout the year. So school counselors are one of our primary referral sources. Mm-hmm. They hear, hey, a family is moving, they ask some more questions, find out maybe they got evicted or something happened, and then we're just identifying throughout the year as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's good that you're doing the work that's hard to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to pretend it doesn't exist.
Well, and I along those lines, and not to belabor the point, we've already kind of talked about the need in our community, but you all were kind enough. I met you all recently when we were doing a Giving Tuesday video, and you all were kind enough to help me put that together for our Giving Tuesday campaign. But a couple of the statistics that really stuck out to me in that in the video that we talked about, there are 845 youth experiencing homelessness in West Ada School District right now. 24% of our students are experiencing financial hardship. And again, I'm belaboring the point, but Shannon, there's a need here. 845 students experiencing homelessness currently, and I'm sure that number's kind of probably fluctuated a little bit. But what is the need? How important is it for us as a community to be aware of that need?
It's extremely important. I think that if you know that your neighbors and kids in your neighborhood are struggling with a lack of housing, wouldn't you want to help?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
And I think something too that our community doesn't often think about when our students, Annie, you mentioned that we provide breakfast and lunch for these kiddos. We just recently had Thanksgiving break for a week. And if those students are used to having breakfast and lunch at school, what are they doing during the week that they're not at school? And so what kind of programs are available for the times that we're on break?
Yeah, so we, try to identify those families. We help them look at community resources they can access during that week, like a food bank or things like that. We'll send food boxes home with students and families. We do our best to connect them with what's available in the community. We did, I don't know how many turkey boxes. Shannon can tell how many St. Vincent turkey boxes we signed families up for.
We did over 300 turkey boxes through St. Vincent, our partnership with them. They're amazing to help fill some of those gaps.
Wow. I know Mountain View did almost 100 just at their high school provided and put together.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like we have all these federal or state dollars or local tax dollars to provide these resources. It's we rely on community supports and partnerships, right?
Well, and I love it. Like the high school, Mountain View, I can't tell you the exact number, but it's usually around 100 turkey boxes that they put together every year. And it's donations from the Mountain View community, right? Yeah. And it's amazing. And how good does it feel for that Mountain View community to come in and provide help for their own Mountain View community? Yeah. So it's schools are helping too.
Yes,
huge.
Schools are a really big support for families. A lot of our schools, Rocky Mountain does the same thing. So cool. And it's really nice. It takes a village.
Absolutely. Well, and you said something a little while ago, Annie, about even if it's just sports stuff and the chance to give kids to just do what everybody else is doing. I was lucky a couple of years ago, you all. I met this really amazing young lady over at Meridian High. She wasn't at Mountain View, which kind of ticked me off, but it's okay. But she's at Meridian High. Ruby's her name, and I'll link some of her stories in our show notes as well. But she was going through homelessness. And one of the things she told me, like just being a part of the rugby team was huge for her. I mean, why is it important to give kids that opportunity, Annie? I mean, to allow them. I mean, sports is a little thing. I'm using air quotes. It's not. Little things are big things. Why is it important to give kids that opportunity? And maybe they need cleats or whatever. Why is such a basic need? And that's not. I shouldn't say that. That's not a basic need. That's kind of a luxury. But why is stuff like that important?
I mean, it's the same for any kid, whether they're housed or unhoused or living in poverty or not. Having those social connections is huge. We know it has better mental health outcomes when kids are involved in their community. Mm-hmm. They have less anxiety and depression when they feel connected to their school community. They have friends. They have adults they trust that they can go to, like coaches or things like that. So it's important for all students to feel connected to the school. Yeah. And it shouldn't matter where you lay your head at night to be able to participate or to be involved.
Well, and listen, for me to have a chance to talk to Ruby, seriously, a couple of years ago, I did a couple of different videos with her, but she's now studying nursing at Lewis and Clark State College up in Lewiston. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how cool that you dealt with this incredible adversity and were able to come through that. Gratifying is probably the wrong word, Shannon, but I'm sure that's probably part of why you all do what you do. Is that a
absolutely? Yes.
What's that like for you?
It's just the appreciation, and at the end of the day, just being able to do all that we can do to be able to help and support students and getting better outcomes and giving them the opportunities that they deserve.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That is cool.
We talked about McKinney-Vento already. I'd like to kind of jump forward a little bit, if you don't mind. Shannon, community schools, and I know you've touched on this, but the community schools in our in West Ada. My kids went to school, you guys, at West Ada from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I didn't know what our community schools did, what they were about. Can you kind of get us into that, Shannon? What do our community schools really do?
So we have just recently expanded our community school program. We had 3 buildings with community school programs. Now we have 5. We've expanded it into a middle school. Meridian Middle School is now a community school. And basically what it is it provides hubs across our district, kind of based on location and need, to offer supportive services right on campus for families. Some of these schools aren't near any other food banks, so there's a little bit of extra food there, clothing. They also serve as hubs for other schools across the district. We have a process where counselors across the district can do, we call kind of a help desk ticket, to request items, and then all 5 of these community school liaisons will help get the items to those individual schools to serve students.
So for the folks that don't know, our community schools, these 5 locations, there's a community school liaison who kind of runs the center there. And I've had the privilege, I think, of attending all of our community schools. And it's usually, a decent sized room. There's usually kind of a kitchen. There's closets with clothing. There's bags of food. There's home cleaning kits. There's just tons.
School supplies, yes.
Just all kinds of resources. And I think it's important for folks to understand that we serve our entire district, and it's not just need doesn't know attendance boundaries, right? And so you have schools all over that can request help, like you said, a help desk ticket. So all students are being served, not just the students in those specific areas. Right?
Exactly. And it's more than just stuff, too. It's more than
a coats and socks.
It's also about enrichment opportunities and connections and finding out what students are interested in and what they want to learn about, and providing enrichment opportunities for those kids as well.
Well, I would assume that enrichment opportunities, that kind of goes back, Annie, that kind of goes back to the whole trust thing. Finding what it is that gets them going in the morning. I don't know if it's rugby or chess club or whatever. What are those, how important are those enrichment opportunities, I guess, is the question.
It's super important. It helps with chronic absenteeism. That's something that we're focusing on as a group this year, is reducing absenteeism. But if you're connected to that school community, if you have something you're excited to go to, whether that's a club or a favorite subject or, a lunch bunch group at school, you want to come. So it's our way to help students feel connected to that school community. And again, that connection improves everything. It improves test scores, it improves absenteeism, and it improves mental health outcomes. So it's really important.
It's huge.
West Ada is proud to partner with Purposity, a platform that connects community members to the specific needs of our students and families. Through Purposity, you can make a direct impact by fulfilling essential needs like clothing, school supplies, and hygiene items. Join us in spreading kindness and making a lasting impact by signing up at purposity.com. You'll find the link in today's show notes.
We were talking about, I had mentioned that need doesn't know attendance boundaries, right? But these resources that we're talking about, these services, they're available to every student in West Ada, right? Like all 40,000 students have access. It's not discriminatory against students who maybe are not living in that kind of poverty zone.
Absolutely. Any of these resources, any student can access in our district in need.
That's
Which is
amazing.
huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, okay. And so we've got stuff happening in West Ada, but community partners, what does that look like, Shannon, in terms of there are people who, whether it's churches or Boys and Girls Club, whatever, there are people in the community that help us out. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis in your world?
Oh, we are so lucky to have so many, and I would never want to leave anybody out. But for some big ones, I would say Meridian Food Bank, for sure. They help us with our weekend food food bags weekly across the district, which is an amazing asset. I don't even know how many we're requesting a week, but they step up and provide every week and deliver them to our schools. United Way is a great support in learning more about the way we do community schools. Deseret Industries, we have a grant with them that helps us serve many of our families. Purposity.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Will you tell us a little bit about Purposity and what that is? Because I've seen it go around, but maybe not all of our families know about it.
Yeah, so Purposity is an app that we have. We started it, I believe, in 2018 is when we got involved with Purposity. And it's purpose and generosity. So that's Purposity together. That's where it comes from.
I'm from Arkansas. I make up a lot of words. So whenever people make up words, I love that. That's fantastic.
So, it's awesome. So basically what happens is if there is a need that we can't fill through like a community resource or in our community schools, things like that, it has to be a tangible need that can be bought off Amazon for under $250. So that's kind of the parameters around it. Okay. And so it's lots of different things. We do, maybe an air mattress for kids who are sleeping on the floor, or it could be a specific size of shoe, or it could be, it could be lots of different things. Sleeping bags. We've done a stroller. It's a huge variety of needs.
So just physical needs.
Physical needs.
Right.
So we get these referrals, and then only our social work team has access to post these needs on Purposity. And so then it shows up as a need on the app side for the user side. And it will tell you a little blurb, about maybe the situation of what's going on.
Sure.
And then a user can purchase that item directly from the app, and it gets sent directly to our social work team, and then we give that to the student. So the thing I love about it is that it's a direct, tangible need that's going from us to from the giver to the student. We're just the middleman that passes it off, right? And so it's not like I love when people donate money too. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's just nice to be like, hey, I just know that this item is going directly to the student.
And I really helped somebody out.
I really helped somebody out. And so it's good. It's just a nice app, and we use it all the time. And it's great to get some of those harder to find items for families and kids.
You just gave me a really good idea. I'm going to have my 3 sons. We're going to go on Purposity, and they're going to pick something for Christmas. And that's what they're going to give.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's what we're going to do. I challenge everyone to try that.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and listen, I'm kind of belaboring the point again, but to have those needs met here locally, because sometimes when I donate, it's like, oh, this is going somewhere. And how important is it to have that in our community, Shannon?
It's very important. It's important for people to know where their money is going. And this is one of those things that there isn't middleman expenses. As a purchaser, you can see the price of it on Amazon. It's confidential, so you don't have any student information. It all is ran through us on our social work team, and it gets into the hands of those who need it.
That's really cool.
And there's a big variety of price points. That's something else that I want to point out, because not everybody can give thousands of dollars. But, hey, maybe, we've had families that maybe have a house fire, and it's like they're trying to replace some kitchen items or something like that. And it's like, hey, but I can spend $10 on some measuring cups, or, something that's kind of an oddity maybe that you wouldn't think about as a need. But there's usually something for everyone, which is kind of nice too. Half
my battle is trying to figure out what gift to give or whatever, So when you've got physical needs, and this is $10 or this is what, that's kind of cool. I love that it gives
I think anybody can get involved, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. And so we're talking about Purposity and other community partners and things like that. We also have the West Ada Education Foundation right here within our district. They're a nonprofit organization. Do you want to share a little bit about how the foundation supports our community schools and families?
We love our foundation. They are huge supporters of our team. We have several programs through the West Ada Foundation that we utilize. One of them is Bridging the Gap. That's a program that we use for all sorts of things. We can use that for the pay-to-play fees, for equipment. We can use it to buy. We've done eyeglasses or things like that for students. It's pretty expansive in terms of what they will allow us to use those funds for.
Like caps and gowns for graduation, all those ancillary funds you don't think of.
Yearbooks. Yeah. There's lots of things, club fees or, things like that we've paid for. it's really just to help those students have that full access to school, right? Full participation. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we also have Housing plus High School equals Success in our program to help unaccompanied youth stay in a living situation that they might
Now,
need
that's
help
something
with.
we haven't talked about yet is unaccompanied youth. You want to define that a little bit?
Yeah, so an unaccompanied youth is a youth experiencing homelessness that doesn't live in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. So that can be lots of different things. It could be there's shelters that are gender specific. So maybe students and parents have to be separated because of a shelter situation. So maybe mom or dad goes into the shelter and the student decides to stay with a friend or a family member. So they don't have to live in that shelter. So that could be an unaccompanied situation, or it could be a student that left an unsafe situation at home and they're on their own completely. Last year we had, I think, 110 students identified as unaccompanied. So far this year we've identified 58 students as unaccompanied.
Wow. Gosh. And that's so far.
Yeah, so far. And yeah, so our Housing plus High School equals Success program, it's only for 18 to 21-year-old students. And it's a housing stipend program that can help keep that housing stability for them. Because really our goal at the end of the day is we are a school district. At the end of the day, it's education, right? Yeah. So kind of everything we do is really focused on school success. But so that, so when you think about like our lane, the lane that we're staying in is like it's still all, at the end of the day, it's how can we help kids be successful at school? And so for those 18 to 21-year-olds, it can be keeping them housed so they can get graduated.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's a lot of different issues, and if you haven't seen our podcast episode with Rebound High School,
I was just going to bring up Mike,
because it all to your point, it all intertwines. We're trying to help kids get that education and the ability to see a different future for themselves, which is pretty darn cool.
And if we can get them to see that future, we have the people and the resources in place to really help them be successful.
Well, and the statistics around education and homelessness are kind of scary. So students experiencing homelessness are 87% more likely to drop out of school. And an adult who does not have a high school diploma or a GED is 346% more likely to experience homelessness in adulthood. Wow. So if you just think about that just from an education lens only, getting that GED, or sorry, not GED or high school diploma, but just having that in place is going to help them forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Education's the ticket out of poverty.
It's the ticket. So we're trying to get them that ticket.
Well, Shannon, how important is it to give people a different vision of what life can be? I mean, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. We have to adjust the lens and lead the way and help remove the barriers.
Well, okay. So I hope throughout this podcast we've been able to say, listen, we're in a very affluent area, but there is a need. To kind of try and put a bow on this and have a positive outlook, what would you say to those families, Annie? What would you say to those families that are in need out there to encourage them and say, listen, there's a different path here. What would you say there?
I would say you matter. No crisis lasts forever, and help is available. Just ask. We're here to help. We're here to support.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Shannon,
exactly.
can you add there? I mean,
well, if we don't know, we can't help. And I think sometimes people assume that we know what's going on, but we don't know unless you tell us and share your story and allow us to help.
Allow us into your story.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone, I can freely admit this, and I'm a fairly prideful person, and I think a lot of people are.
Shocker, most human beings are. Yeah.
My experience, though, honestly, has been shocked by the level of grace and non-judgment by all of your team. Like, it just blows me away. I've been out in community events where, and I probably shouldn't admit this out loud, but where students will come up and hug community school liaisons or social workers that I've been with, and there may be some kids that you maybe don't want to hug because their hair's matted or they're, and to see the love and the care and the excitement that the students have because they don't feel judged, they feel loved. It's just huge, and it's so important. And so I think I would say thank you for constantly changing my heart and through the work you do.
Thank you, Katie.
That's
Thank
pretty
you.
cool. Well, we've covered a lot. Before we say goodbye, is there anything? I think we've covered most of the stuff, but is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're like, oh, Ken, we should have mentioned X, Y, or Z, or did we do our job well today?
I can't think of anything. Can you?
I don't think so. I just appreciate your time. Thank you for shedding light on an invisible problem in our district. And hopefully we have provided some families with a little bit of hope that even if you're in a tough situation, man, there's a lot of resources out there, and there's a lot of people that care, and we hope you give us the opportunity to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's any and all family. Every
and all
single one of
family.
our 40,000 students and their families.
We love you all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do what we can.
I love it. Well,
Thank you.
and listen, not to blow sunshine, but what you all do and how you partner with our counselors and our SROs and all the people, it's a huge deal, and especially this time of year. I mean, there are people in need, and I don't know, to piggyback on what Katie's saying, I'm just very thankful that you all and your team are out there to do what you're doing. It's pretty darn cool.
Well, thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'll just put a shameless plug in. Families, you can help through Purposity. You can help by donating through the West Ada Education Foundation. You can reach out to one of your local schools. There's lots of ways to help if you're able.
Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Katie, I know I say it every time, but what a couple of amazing women who are doing very needed work in our community.
Yep.
How cool.
And really, how fortunate are we in West Ada that, they mentioned that when Annie started, there was just
one social worker.
One position, two of them shared it.
Yeah.
And now we have like 7, I think, throughout the district. It's just really, it's a good thing that we have that support, but also it's a highlight of the need that we actually do have in our district, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I want, thank you all for listening and for being here. And hopefully you see that there's a huge need, whether it's Purposity or whether it's working with the West Ada Education Foundation. There are ways for us, especially this time of year when we're all, I hope, thinking about giving in a different way. There are ways to be able to do that. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for recognizing the need. And let's work together as a community.
And I'm serious about my pledge to have my boys, give on Purposity. And I think that's a great way to get your kids and teens involved. So I challenge all of you listening to really give back.
I love that, and think differently, and help our kids to think differently as well. Yeah, well, we're so glad that you're here, and please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Google, Amazon. If you listen on iTunes, please rate us and leave a review. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast, or you can watch on YouTube if you'd like to do that. We would love for you to subscribe there, and let's have a conversation. I mean, let's continue this conversation. So today's question: Where do you give? Where do you give your time, your money during the holidays, and what organizations do you trust with your donations, and why? And I think that's a good thing for this time of year, for like, okay, where do we give our money, and what are the good places to be good community members?
Right, and there's so many. We mentioned we live in a resource-rich valley, so if you have the willingness and the ability to help, there's an organization for you. So we'd love to hear how you support.
Yeah, so do that on social media or send us an email at communicate@westada.org. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to kind of continue this conversation and think and let's brainstorm ways to make our world better for our kids.
Yeah. It's incumbent upon us, right?
It's a big deal.
And just like that, we get to have upcoming episodes of the West Ada podcast.
January is coming.
January's coming, and I'm excited about this one because you've all heard me say before how my son's so involved in CTE. But we have Will Shoemaker. He's our he's the director of career technical education,
Right.
and then we have Wendy Small, and she's our specific CTE college and career counselor. And so she really helps kids identify their path, and kind of we'll be talking about how to enroll in different CTE pathways and all of that kind of good stuff.
Well, there's so many different opportunities, and I think that sometimes for us as parents, it can get a little overwhelming. Like,
absolutely.
What the heck? How am I going to help my kid? So to have them come on with us and to help navigate all that, I think is going to be a great way to start.
It's perfectly
the new year.
timely because you'll get all of that information at the right time to enroll and register in those programs.
It'll be a lot of fun. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. And again, thank you to Annie and Shannon and for all that they do. And we hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you back in 2025.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.